Deuteronomy 19. When the Lord thy God has cut off the nations, whose land the Lord thy God giveth thee, complete victory, which they don't get, and thou succeedest them, and dwelleth in their cities, which they do in Joshua, and in their houses. Look at the houses already built. The vineyards are already built. The gardens are already built. Just go in there, kill, and take over. Thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee in the midst of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. So here's 3 special cities, which will be Levite cities. Thou shalt prepare thee a way and divide the coast of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to inherit, into 3 parts, that every slayer may flee thither. Divide the land, the full land, 3 parts. And within those 3 parts, these 3 lands, these 3 cities, the slayer may flee. Here's someone who has killed somebody. We're getting more and more information as we read the chapter. You got to read all the words. And this is the case of the slayer, mentioned in verse 3, which shall flee thither to one of these 3 cities, that he may live. Okay? So here's someone who's killed somebody, and there are 3 cities in the land to be provided for when somebody has killed somebody. And this chapter builds upon as we go and read. Whosoever killeth his neighbor ignorantly, that's the slayer. He is ignorant of killing his neighbor. And that doesn't mean, the accident happens, oh, what did I do? And we're going to get an example coming up. When you're driving down a road and that child runs out in front of your car and bam, that's ignorance. You had no idea what's going to happen. Whom he hated not in times past. We're going to see that in a minute. And the cause would be if the trial would come up. And let's say it's a complete accidental killing. And somebody in the courtroom says, listen, I know this guy. He hated him before. And it looks like, and I don't know, but it looks like the fact is, if the accident can be proved that there was hatred in times past, it looks like, and I don't know, then it would turn into a murder. And we see the Apostle John when he writes to us in the scriptures, and Paul loved the brethren. And I would believe that would come right out of the law, that if you did love the brethren and something were to happen to them, somebody would, if rightly, 2 or 3 witnesses say, well, he hated him. And I'm going to leave it just like that. Now here's the illustration in verse 5. As when a man goeth into the woods. And it's kind of funny, we say woods, and yet it's one plot of land called wood. It's singular. With his neighbor to hew wood. You're going to go in there, you're going to chop down the wood. And his hand fetches a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree. He's about to swing the axe. And the head slippeth from the heave. The iron separates from the wooden handle. And lighteth upon his neighbor, smacks him right then in the head. Chest. An artery. And he died. This would be involuntary manslaughter in our court system of America today. You had no idea what's going to happen. Now, if you hated him and you fixed that axe head to come loose, but then again, if you read the law before, And we're going on a bunny trail, but it's not really a bunny trail. If that axe head was already loose and you didn't fix it and you knew it, but the cause here given by God and Moses is it's no idea is going to happen. Justifiable homicide in America is when you defend yourself. Somebody's going to attack you and you kill them. And here we have an accidental death without hatred. In verse 5, he shall flee unto one of those cities and live. The 3 cities set apart. So there are 3 cities in the land, and if you accidentally kill somebody, you are to head to the closest city. Why? Verse 6. Lest the avenger of blood pursue the slayer. Somebody who's related, somebody who loves the person that died. Brothers, fathers, wife, sons, cousins, uncles. How dare you kill whoever? While his heart is hot. Now look at that. The Bible already proclaims that if something has happened, the person's going to be hot. The Bible says, be angry, but sin not. And the Bible does allow for man to get angry, but the consequences can turn into sin if we don't control it. It's a given fact that if somebody were to be killed, that would draw an anger. And we see written in the Bible, excuse me, that is given to us, be angry, and God is going to prevent the sin. Now, whether that be angry and sin not, it runs back to where we're reading right now, I don't know. But God says, hey, listen, if he gets angry, while his heart is hot, and overtake him, because the way is long, and slay him. The avenger of blood has slain, has killed the person that killed his family. We call that the Hatfield McCormick. Because the way is long and slay him, whereas he was not worthy of death. That's the person that accidentally killed. There is no capital punishment. There is no stoning. There is no hanging. There is no electric chair for somebody who accidentally killed somebody. Now watch again. As much as he hated him not in times past. Look at that hatred again. Look how that shows up. And I'm going to assume, and I can be wrong, but because there would be a trial. And it can be proven by 2 or 3 witnesses that there was hatred, even though it's accidental. I don't know where to go from there. It looks like it could be a charge of murder. Question is, and the ability is, and the moral of this, don't hate anybody. Doesn't God know everything we do? Doesn't God know every feeling we have? Doesn't God know all our thoughts? Well, we've been thinking about killing somebody. We've been so angry with somebody, a boss or something that, and let's say you're really angry at your boss and you don't do something. One day you're at work, an occupational hazard, and your boss dies. And you were in the hands of that. Well, today we're not going to take the time in our court system. Oh, was he angry? We're not going to take that time, but God knew you were. And the law shows to the fact is, if there was hatred, you got to be careful. Wherefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee. Okay, this is the reason. This guy has to go somewhere so the family does not come and have a rivalry. You killed Uncle Bob, and now my family's going to kill your family. Your family's going to a feud. God doesn't want that. And if the Lord thy God enlarge thy coast, now look at this. Do you see what verse 8 says? It says, not only that you're going to get that land's already prescribed, but there's an ability to get more land, which David and Solomon do, and they move up to the river Euphrates. And if the Lord thy God knows the if, because he knows what Israel's already going to do, and if the Lord thy God enlarge thy coast, and as he has sworn unto thy fathers, and give thee all the land which he promised to give unto thy fathers, if thou shalt keep all these commandments and do them when I command thee this day, which we've been reading all about, to love the Lord thy God. If you're going to love the Lord thy God, you're going to love your enemy. You're going to love that neighbor. You're going to love anybody. For God is love. And walk ever in his ways. So if you're going to love God, you're going to do what God's told you to the commandment. There would be no hatred. And you got to understand that accidents do happen. You're going to get angry, but do not sin. And what would be that sin? Murder upon an accidental death. And God doesn't want that. Then shalt thou add 3 cities more for thee, besides these 3. Now there are 3 cities already on the other side of Jordan, where Reuben, Gad, and half tribe of Manasseh set for. There are 6 cities of this refuge. And God is saying there's a possibility you're to add 3 more, 9. Which I don't read anywhere where this happens. That innocent blood be not shed in thy land. That innocent blood be not shed in thy land. You know Judas violated the law? Did Judas hate Jesus? No, he didn't. Loved him. He told the priest, "Hey, listen, I'm going to turn him over to you, but don't do him any harm." And that moment when he realized he betrayed the innocent blood out of his own words, he didn't run to the city of refuge, he ran to the priest. Get that? That innocent blood. He proclaims to the priest, I have sinned against the innocent blood. He should have ran to the city of refuge at that time. Because he would be charged with the murder of Jesus. He sold him out. And the Bible says you don't have to do the murder. You just have to be involved. So here's this guy. He's out there cutting lumber. He's with his friend. The axe head breaks. The axe head comes off. Bam, he smacks his neighbor right in the head. He's innocent. So what's he do? Drops the stick. Runs to the closest city he can get to. Enters in the gates and explains his story. We'll read on. Which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance, and so blood be upon thee. Alright? After that killing, run to the closest city. But if a man hate, there's that hate again. 3 times. His neighbor, and lie in wait for him. You are planning. You are in purpose. Proverbs chapter 1. That is a murder. That is a homicide. When you want the act for the purpose. And rise up against him. And smite him mortally. He dies. That he died. And fleeth unto one of these cities. Okay, here I go. I'm going to run to the cities. Even though I planned it, I wanted it, and I hated him. I'm going to run to refuge. And we have a problem with the Catholic Church on this thing here. There have been mafias. There have been Nazis. There have been all kinds of criminals that runs to the Father. I'm talking about the priests. That's what they call them. And he goes in the little booth and he proclaims his crime. And the church becomes a sanctuary for the protection of this criminal, which violates the Bible, or he gives money to the priest and he absolves his sins, which Luther was against. The fact is, paying a priest to have your sins absolved, and especially what we're talking about here, murder. The Catholic Church, their priests, if you paid them enough money, you went in that booth and you said your prayers, and they would baptize you, you would say your Hail Mary, whatever you had to say and all that, and the Catholic Church would say, I can't turn him over to you, the police to you. It's happened in 2018 because he's been absolved of his sins by the priesthood. It's a violation of the Bible. When somebody runs into the church and seeks sanctuary for their crimes, and it's a long, beg-out process, that violates the Bible. This guy in verse 11, he is an active murderer. He's got to die. Verse 11. But if any man hate his neighbor, and lie in wait for him, and rise up against him, and smite him mortally, that he die, and fleeth unto one of these cities, or church, then the elders of his city shall send and fetch him thither. Now, these are not the elders of the city of refuge. This is where this man lives. You know what happens in America if you commit a crime worthy in Florida and you are caught in Colorado? Colorado will call Florida and say, hi, we got this guy here, and you guys want him for a serious crime. Do you want us to transport? Do you want to pick this guy up? And they'll say yes or no. You want to pick him up? You send people over here to Colorado, and you come pick him. You see, that's out of the Bible. I bet you no law officer, no law court knows that that fact is when the police department goes picks him up, it's found in the Bible. The elders of his city, let's say Orlando, and Denver, Colorado. Orlando would send police officers or somebody to Denver or the federal government and bring that guy back to Orlando. That guy has fled to another city. He has ran to another city, but he's guilty. And fetch him thence, and deliver him into the hand of the avenger of blood, that he may die. Look at that. You turn him over to the family. You know that in the times of the Great Depression and the mafia and stuff like that, and all these rivalry gangs, and you think about that verse in America and in New York. If there's one thing those gangs and those people feared were Jewish mothers and Polish mothers. They feared them. And if you were to hand this person in New York City, you would hand them over to a Jewish mother or a Polish mother, man, they'd beat the crap out of them. And that's what's happening. And these feuds that go on all over the world with the family, the fact is, did that guy kill that person? Yes, he did. Is it guilty charge? We'll get to the charges and the sentences. Yes. Hand that guy over to the family of the person that was killed. And it's ridiculous in America today when somebody has done a crime against your family and you are so nuts to say, oh, I don't think he should die. You're nuts. You have lost the love of your family. That you would think about letting your murderer, let that person that raped your children, let that person have his way with your family, let your family kill or abuse your grandmother, that you would say, let him stay in a hotel prison for the rest of his life. You got to be crazy. That's not the Bible. God says he's guilty of murder, turn him over to the family. Let him be stoned. You see why people don't want the Bible? You see why they don't want the Bible in the court system today in America? Why you can't have the 10 Commandments? What's the 10 Commandments? What's one of the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not kill. What is one of the number one crimes in America? Killing, murder. Turn them over to the avenger of blood, that he may die. That I shall not pity him. That's what I just said. But thou shalt surely put away the guilt of innocent blood from Israel. The innocent blood is that guy that was killed. He did nothing. Even if you're stealing his wallet, even though you bang him over the head for the purse, or whatever the crime is, no one is worthy of murder. Innocent blood from Israel, that it may go well with thee. God says in Genesis chapter 4, the blood cries out. God told us in the law that the blood of the slain cry out to him. The land cannot be cleansed except by the blood of him that murdered. America is a bloody, filthy land crying out to God for vengeance. Jerusalem is crying out to Jesus Christ. You shed God's blood, Acts 20:28. And still crying out today. Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's... I don't know why this one's here. Right in the middle of all this. Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark. Now you run this to Ahab, Naboth, and Jezebel on this one. When Ahab wants that vineyard, and Jezebel says, aren't you king of this land? Take care of it. I will do it for you, honey. Go to sleep and have dinner. And Naboth says, I can't do it because it's my father's land. Naboth is 100% correct, and the king and Jezebel are wrong. Which they of old time has set thy inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. Now that's a remarkable verse there. You know that? When Moses wrote this down, Moses is going to die at the end of Deuteronomy. Joshua is going to take over and bring them across the Jordan to go in the... And then we're going to get Jericho. Then we're going to get Ai and all the cities. And then later on in the middle of Joshua, they're going to cast lots for the land. And they're going to write them in the book, and they're going to say, this belongs to Zebulun, this belongs to Judah, this belongs to Benjamin, this blah, 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 blah. Here's when 1914 is written, they're not even in the land yet, and God says there's already landmarks. The foreknowledge of God, he knows where the property lines are and are set. And Moses hasn't even died yet. And they're not going to that promised land until Moses dies. And God says there's already landmarks. And he says, thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time... Moses, you're writing something that had not even happened yet. And that old time is like Jesus Christ. From the very foundation of the world, Jesus Christ was to be the sin offering. The foreknowledge of God is found in verse 14. And when you're messing with the land of Israel, God has already prescribed where that land is. And the United Nations is going against what God has prescribed for that land. The Arabians are going against God. America's going against God. Because God has already said, and if that land is not divided amongst the children of Israel like God has set the landmark, then you're sinning. All right, 15. I don't know why that's in the middle. 14. Thou shalt inherit thou shalt inherit the land that the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it. It's there. It's foreknowledge. It hasn't happened yet. That the Lord thy God giveth thee. It's written as it's already happened, and it hasn't. One witness, now we go back to the law courts. One witness shall not rise against a man for any iniquity or any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. So, if there's only one witness or no witnesses, you don't have a case. That's it. So the man that's cutting wood in the forest or in the woods kills his neighbor, he has to go to the city refuge and explain to him that there has been a event. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, shall the matter be established. You need 2 or more witnesses. And it's funny on this what Jesus said, in the mouth of 2 or 3, where they are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. That's witnesses. Forget the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm a Jesus witness. Jesus, that is God. But in the law of court, there has to be a minimum of 2 witnesses. So when Jesus speaks about a controversy in the church, he says, first of all, go to the person himself and deal with it. And if he will not listen to you, he will not hearken unto you. Then Jesus says, go get somebody, and you go with that person and deal with the person. And if nothing's resolved on that fact, then you are to go to the church and say, listen, I dealt with a guy by myself. I can't prove that. You got to take my word on that. But what'd you do next? I went and got somebody else from church, and we both went together and talked to the guy. And then they would explain to the guy, okay, what did you see? What did you hear? And that would be 2 witnesses. And there would be a church matter. Show 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. Another case scenario. If a false witness rise up against any man to testify against him that which is wrong. All right, here's a liar. Here's a perjured, lying. And they found many false witnesses in Jesus' time for his trial. They just couldn't find 2. They couldn't find 2 to agree. If a false witness rise against any man to testify against him that which is wrong, then both the men between whom the controversy is shall stand before the Lord. Oh, you talk about an ultimate Supreme Court. Bypass the priest and let's go straight to God. And the only thing I would think in the land of Israel that you would apply this application here is you were to go to Jerusalem and you would stand at that gate before the brazen altar. That's where I would think. You're not going to go into the holy place, and you're not going to go in the most holy place. You can't. So the only activity place that this would be is you're at the doors just before the brazen altar with everybody witnessing that's there that day. When Jesus Christ was circumcised, the Bible records not only Mary and Joseph witnessed that, but there was also Simeon and Anna. There were 4 witnesses to Jesus' circumcision. It's a well-established fact. Jesus Christ. He had 12 men that were around him all the days of his life, not including the women. That was established witness fact of the life of Jesus Christ. So, I would assume you go right to the temple. And the judges shall make a diligent, that means you check every I that's dotted, you check every T that's crossed, you make sure that the right punctuation, you make sure the right case is there, you make sure you record the person that recorded what they saw. Inquisition, that is looking for the facts. The Inquisitions of the Catholic Church was anything but the facts, anything but the truth. They were false witnesses at their Inquisition to kill Christians. And look how Inquisition shows up with false witness. And when Judas came to the priest and said, I have betrayed the innocent blood, they were supposed to go and search and check and examine Judas's testimony. And they never did. They ought to have stopped everything and said, wait a minute, this man that we gave 30 pieces of silver says that he lied. We got to look into this matter, and they didn't. I think they said something, what it be to us? And the money was thrown down. He went and hung himself. And the judges shall make a diligent inquisition, and behold, if the witness be a false witness, and has testified falsely against his brother. Oh, this guy's a liar. He's a perjurer. Then shall ye do unto him, the perjurer, as he had thought to have done unto his brother. Oxen, money, property, death. So shalt thou put the evil away from among you. Perjury is evil. Lying is evil. And those which remain, who have seen and witnessed what had just happened, shall hear and fear, and shall henceforth commit no more any such evil among you. Our judicial system, when it prosecutes people that are guilty, people are to look at that guilty and plea, say, I ought not to do that. I am not going to do what that man did. Not after what they did to them. One of the things would be whipping. 40 whips minus 1. 39 whips across the back would be one of the charges. And people would watch that whipping and say, I don't want that. It's to be a deterrent to crime. And thine eye shall not pity. I mean, that's twice it's mentioned. But life shall go for life, murder. If that false witness lies against someone who is to be stoned, then you stone the false witness. There it is. Eye for an eye. It's funny how Jesus said one of the things, if thy eye offend thee, pluck it out. Eye for an eye. Tooth for a tooth. You were to release a servant if you hit him and his tooth fell out. That's it. You're no more under my servitude. You are a free man. Hand for a hand. If thy hand offend thee, cut it off. Look at this. Look at Jesus quoting from the law. Foot for foot. Thy foot offend thee. Better to be enter life halt than enter eternity with both feet. Isn't that kind of interesting?